Hello everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Have you ever imagined what it would be like if Tu Tieu and Uri had a baby? Not just a thought or a fan wish, but an actual day where their love turns into a heartbeat you can hold, a tiny name spoken out loud for the first time, and a quiet ride home where life suddenly feels brand new. Today, you'll see that moment. So if you enjoy stories like this, remember to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos on the channel. The delivery room is still, almost like the air itself is waiting. Tu Tieu's breath counts slow in her chest, the way someone steps carefully across a narrow bridge. Another push. One more silent second. And then, something splits the world in two. The moment before and everything after. A sharp, thin cry slices the light wide open. It's small, but bold. A newborn's first sound. Immediately, exhalations scatter like a breeze. Shoes stop moving. Instruments stop clinking. The doctor lifts his eyes. Voice warm, like someone lighting a lantern on a stormy night. "A boy," he says. And that's where this story truly begins. Just minutes earlier, the rain had been combing softly across the bamboo roof at their home. Outside, a contraction folded Tu Tieu in half, her hands bracing against a porch post. She bit her lip, breathed in, steadied herself. Uri hovered nearby, checking and rechecking their hospital bag, not out of panic, but as if each item was a clue to keep him from getting overwhelmed. Diapers, a tiny cap, folded documents. He touched each thing like counting prayer beads. At the gate, Mrs. Lon emerged in a dark jacket, her palm resting on Tu Tieu's belly, warm and slow, as if letting the baby know they were ready for him too. "Time," she said. Not urgently, not fearfully, just truthfully. They moved together, like they'd rehearsed it. Uri rolled out the motorbike. Tu Tieu leaned into the breath she'd practiced for weeks. Mrs. Lon angled the umbrella, not for herself, but to shield mother and child, letting rain patter softly on her shoulder instead. The headlamp carved a pale slice of light down the lane. Puddles flickered like blinking eyes. Trees turned black and tall against the night, like someone had drawn them with ink instead of leaves and branches. Every time the pain rolled through her, Tu Tieu's fingers gripped the back of Uri's shirt. She counted quietly. Inhale, hold, release. Like she wasn't just riding the pain, but steering through it. The district hospital rose from the darkness like a paper lantern glowing through storm mist. Inside, the sharp smell of antiseptic pushed the damp out of their sleeves. The wheels of a gurney hummed across the tiles. The staff spoke with calm, practiced hands. Quick, but never rushed. "Sideline for now," a midwife instructed gently, smoothing the sheet with the authority of someone who knows how to command panic without ever raising her voice. Set apart from the delivery curtain, Mrs. Lon sat in a plastic chair, the baby bag perched on her lap like something sacred. She opened it, smoothing the tiny cream newborn shirt over and over until not a single wrinkle dared remain. She didn't fidget. She waited the way people pray, deliberate, composed, not asking, just being there. Time in the hallway stretched thin. Rain tapping glass, footsteps passing with subdued urgency, the heartbeat of a monitor somewhere behind a door, steady, stubborn. Uri scrubbed his hands at the sink. Cold water, then warm, like he was washing away every version of himself that wasn't ready to be a father. His shoulders squared without him thinking. Not bigger, just steadier. When the midwife waved him in, He stepped to Tutu's side, close enough to dab her sweat with gauze, careful not to interrupt the choreography of experienced hands. Past the curtain, a green line pulsed up and down on the monitor. The baby's heartbeat tapped a rhythm that seemed to answer the rain outside, steady, insistent, arriving. "Towels," someone called. Numbers and breaths intertwined. "Push. Hold." The obstetrician counted, slow, firm, as though tying knots no one should ever have to undo. Tutu's fingers curled into mountains against the sheet. A thread of hair stuck damp to her temple. She wasn't just enduring the pain. She was listening to her body like it was telling a secret for the first time. No one spoke of the markets they worked in, the gossip around town, or the rafters blackened by smoke they'd worked to repair. But it was all there, standing quietly behind her. Every hardship, every fight, every step toward this moment. Silent furniture built from years of trying. Another contraction crested high and sharp. "With me," the doctor said, her voice lowering like a rope being lowered into a well. Uri matched Tutu's breathing without planning. Steel on a tray caught a perfect circle of light. An IV dripped a rhythm of its own, tiny ticking, refusing to be rushed. Between waves of pain came fleeting slips of quiet, a hinge of silence where the room seemed to lean inward, almost bowing. Mrs. Lon outside the curtain stood up without knowing why, hands folding calmly, not to fight fear, but to keep it still. The doctor murmured again, "Now." The word landed heavy, like a key turning. The monitor leapt, then steadied. Tutu gathered herself. Shoulders low, breath deep, body pulling power from years of living, not minutes of labor. This wasn't dramatic strength. It was honest strength. The kind that comes from opening doors that were cared for long before they were used. She pushed. Sheets creased under her knuckles. The air cleared as if someone wiped fog from glass. One more count, one more breath. Then, silence thinner than a single strand of hair. A cry burst through it, bright, demanding, alive. The midwife laughed softly once, just once. The doctor lifted the baby with movements that didn't brag about themselves. "A boy," she repeated, and the world rearranged itself around that truth. Wrapped in a towel, he glowed pink and furious. His fists open like flowers, forgetting they were folded. He looked offended by the brightness of the world, then chose to argue by breathing louder. Clamps snapped. 1, 2. Clean, decisive. Before Uri could ask, his hands were already lifting, not grabbing, but accepting. The weight shocked him, lighter than he imagined, yet heavier than thought. A bead of water clung to the baby's dark lash and refused to fall, like even gravity was taking a moment to absorb what had just happened. Uri forgot the gauze in his own hand. "Skin to skin," the midwife said, already guiding, already lifting the blanket away. The baby was placed on Tutu's chest. His cheek found the ridge of her collarbone, like it had been waiting for that exact place his entire existence. His cry softened into a searching murmur. Heat moved between them, not just warming, but recognizing. His fingers tested fabric, then skin. Tutu's palm covered his tiny back, nearly enveloping it, and her whole body released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Outside, still waiting, Mrs. Lon heard the newborn cry. She closed her eyes, not to block emotion, but to receive it. When she opened them, she didn't move forward. Sometimes not stepping into a moment is the purest way of honoring it. In her lap, That cream newborn shirt rested like a promise folded small. But here, at the quiet edge of dawn, nothing needs to be earned. It only needs to be lived. A new rhythm has stepped into their lives, and it does not rush. It does not ask. It just breathes, and they follow. The rooster, now forgiven for its early mistake, tries again at a more respectable hour. This time, the sound fits. Mrs. Lon stirs first, the way someone does when they've woken to babies before, without panic, only with listening. She doesn't rush to rise. She pauses, placing her ears between the moment and the morning, letting the room finish sleeping. Then she stands slowly and presses her palm lightly over the boy's blanket. Warm, safe. She lets her hand linger like a quiet blessing no one needs to hear to understand. Uri wakes next, not because of the sound, but because the body learns quickly to patrol at the smallest question. His head lifts before his eyes fully open. He doesn't speak yet. He just looks at wife, at child, at roof and room, and something in him counts the way rain used to count. Not fear, just tallying this new shape of love. Tutu wakes last, blinking through the leftover soreness of endurance. Not pain exactly, but the echo of effort. She adjusts her pillow, then shifts her son higher against her shoulder. His cheek finds its way without help, his mouth seeking warmth, a map memorizing itself. She laws, barely a breath, at how natural the process seems, even though her body is learning it second by second. She feels tired in a way that's full, as though fatigue and fulfillment have become the same word. Mrs. Lon brings warm water in a porcelain cup, not because the pamphlet mentioned it, but because she knows warmth teaches the spirit where to sit inside the body. She places it beside her daughter and doesn't hover. She doesn't give instructions. She just exists nearby, like a lighthouse that doesn't need to shout to be seen. The boy wakes gently, stretching with that newborn royalty. Those movements that look like someone remembering being bigger. His face wrinkles, his nose scrunches, and then the cry comes. Not the sharp burst from the delivery room, but a smaller, questioning sound. A complaint about hunger, or about air being too far away from warmth. They answer immediately, the way tides answer the moon. Tutu shifts her posture, and the boy feeds, small breaths folding between small sips. Time narrows to that one exchange. Uri doesn't know where to stand. He wants to help, but isn't sure how. So he sits on the bed's edge, almost comically careful not to bounce the mattress. His eyes keep returning to the baby's hand, smaller than his thumb's first joint. He studies the fingers, soft and unsure of their job, curling and uncurling, as if trying to hold the world's smallest secret. "You can touch him," Tutu teases, noticing how still he's sitting. "I don't want to break anything," he whispers back. "You won't," she says, and to prove it, she takes his hand and places his finger beneath the baby's palm. The boy closes his tiny fingers around it, claiming it with instinct. Uri freezes, not because he's scared, but because some feelings make the body pause so the heart can catch up. He breathes out slowly, and everything inside him rearranges once more. After the feeding, after the burp that sounds like thunder whispered into cotton, they begin the day. Mrs. Land folds cloths and rearranges pillows the way only seasoned hands can. Fast, precise, invisible as wind-shaping leaves. Tutu tries to stand, wobbles slightly, and Uri is there with an arm before she asks. She doesn't thank him. She doesn't need to. Help without words is its own language. They wash the boy's face with a warm cloth, dab his hair lightly, though there is hardly any. He protests at the dampness, then forgives as soon as he's dry. The diaper is a puzzle, and Uri watches again, determined this time, paying attention the way he once did in school, only when exams were near. He tries it himself on the next change. The folds are clumsy, tilted, nearly a disaster, but the boy fits anyway, and the midwife's absent instruction echoes in his memory. 2 fingers space, no tightness at the waist. He corrects, and the cloth sits right. Tutu nods at him, as if he has just built a house. Breakfast arrives slowly. They eat in shifts. First Tutu, then Uri, then finally Mrs. Lan, who attempts again to eat last, until Tutu glares with a tired authority that no one dares cross. The fish soup tastes like care. The rice tastes like relief. The ginger warms even the parts of them that did no work. Every spoonful anchors them deeper into ordinary living. News travels outside the house. Not loudly, not in crowds. The village speaks softly when joy is new, as if happiness shouldn't be startled. A neighbor leaves sweet bananas at the gate. Another sends clean cloth rolls. Someone hangs a paper charm on the fence post. Good luck, written in quiet ink. Blessings come like weather, not asked, but present. The boy sleeps again. Babies fold days into naps, stitching hours together with slumber. Uri wipes the table even though it's already clean. Tutu sits upright, trying to fight the pull of rest, until finally she gives in and lets her head drift sideways, leaning into the pillow like a truce. Mrs. Lan tucks a blanket around them with one hand, her movements hushed, as if noise could break something sacred. Afternoon bends into gold. Sunlight crosses the room without effort, the same way the boy crossed from womb to world. Shadows shrink. The bamboo roof hums softly, not with rain now, but with the memory of rain. The room smells of milk and ginger steam. The air slows. Tutu opens her eyes and whispers, "Look." She doesn't point at anything, but still both of them look. At their son, his rounded sleeping cheeks, the tiny rise and fall of his chest, the way a newborn makes silence feel full instead of empty. Uri nods, and though he doesn't speak, it's obvious what he's thinking. This moment should be recorded somewhere. The world can't lose it. Evening arrives as if someone dimmed the day with careful fingers. Lamps bloom across the village, small suns claiming their corners. The boy wakes again, yawns with the seriousness of a philosopher, and begins a slow fuss that signals hunger, discomfort, life. They answer not as 3 separate people, but as a single unit, each with a task, each with a rhythm. Outside, someone calls for a child playing too far from home. A kettle whistles from another house. Chickens settle. A motorbike coughs at the turn in the road. Ordinary life doesn't pause for new life. It makes room for it. The boy feeds again, burps again, sleeps again. And in that cycle, they begin to understand. Love is not a grand flame lit once. It is a small lamp, tended constantly, never dramatic, but always necessary. Late into the night, when the roof is whispering and the window reflects only shadows, the 3 of them lie close. Mrs. Lan dozes upright in a chair, her head tilted, hands folded. Uri sits on the floor, arms folded on the mattress, cheek pressed to his own sleeve. Tutu curls her palm over her son's back protectively, even in sleep. The house holds them, the bamboo roof sheltering. The day folded quietly into the next. Nothing rushed, nothing demanded. 3 generations inhaling the same slow air, warmed by the smallest heartbeat in the room. Morning will come. Papers will need signing. Clothes will need washing. The world will ask for chores, money, choices, explanations. But the world can wait. For now, a newborn sleeps, and the house learns a new rhythm. A rhythm that begins, always, with breath. Tu Tieu and Uri finally move into their new home after years of heartbreak, hoping to start a peaceful life together. Yet the past refuses to let go. Lin, who once depended on them, becomes obsessed with revenge. She firmly believes Tu Tieu stole everything that should have belonged to her. With jealousy growing out of control, Lin secretly manipulates people around them, spreading rumors and trying to destroy their reputation. Uri's biological mother returns, but instead of supporting her son, she shockingly trusts Lin's lies. The tension rises as Uri must choose between protecting Tu Tieu and proving his loyalty to his family. Meanwhile, Tu Tieu faces new schemes, threatening their future and even their company. Love becomes a battlefield, and the couple must decide how far they are willing to go to protect each other.